16 years now since I was given the blessed opportunity to meet Fred Phelps, the pastor of the notoriously anti-gay Westboro Baptist Church, and he has since passed away. But he and his church were protesting the play The Laramie Project at the University of Maryland, where I was a student at the time. And The Laramie Project is a play about the murder of gay college student Matthew Shepard in Laramie, Wyoming in 1998. And I joined the school's LGBT Pride Alliance in an organized counter-protest outside of the theater. I decided at the protest that I had to face my fears and approach Mr. Phelps peacefully, of course. I crossed the line that had been drawn by police in order to approach the crowd of people holding signs that said things such as, "God hates fags," "God hates America," "God hates about everything." You know, I can't figure out what God even loves in their minds. And of course, they had the Leviticus 18:22, which is one of the clobber passages, "Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind, it is an abomination." And I've always said to this proof text verse that I don't lie with man as with a woman, I lie with a man as with a man. That's, yeah, simple. So I'll pass through the gritty details of that today. But in MCC, we've always dismissed the use of this verse and others against us, knowing full well that its use is always hypocritical. Remember Jesus' words that he calls the Pharisees hypocrites here. After all, no Christian can or should follow the Levite holiness code in modern times. It makes no sense. So there's no need to continue to argue over it, and I consider the argument over long ago. So back to the story. I'd taken time before the protest to what I called when I was growing up, get prayed up. You know what I mean? You get prayed up. You enter into prayer before you go into something difficult. And I did that so that I would not be consumed with fear when I faced him. So when I approached him, I introduced myself. Very simply, my name is Brian, I am gay, and I am a Christian, and God loves me for who I am. And God loves you too. I looked into his eyes, which were somewhat hidden by the shadow of a cowboy hat, which he was famous of wearing. What I saw surprised me. Unlike most people I meet from day to day, there was no light behind his eyes. He appeared to me as an empty shell, void of life, void of joy. And instead of having the anger response that I had anticipated, I rather had pity. I wondered to myself, what happened to this man to make him into what stands before me? What happened to him? And considering today's scripture passage from the book of James, I now wonder, what does he see when he looks in the mirror each day? Or what did he see? Did he see a child of God with sacred worth? Or did he see something that he hated just as much as he said he hated everything and everyone else? And I don't know him personally, so I don't know the answer to that question, but I can bet that it is the latter, that he had some self-hatred going on. In the letter of James, James writes, "If you listen to the word but do not put it into practice, you are like people who look in a mirror and see themselves as they are. They take a good look at themselves and then go away, and at once they forget what they look like." And surely people like Phelps, who preach a message of hate, have read the loving words of Jesus that cover all of the Gospels. They must know that the greatest commandment is to love God,
That's right.
love the neighbor, and to love yourself with our whole being. They have listened to it, but at least publicly, they certainly do not put it into practice. And it seems like we are reading two different Bibles, and I don't just mean two different translations. In MCC, we preach the unconditional love of God, which has no bounds. It is not just for one class or type of people. We know that it is for all, because this divine love is within all and all around us. We need to hear this message because, as James points out, many in the world have a very different message. It is that ego message that he says to keep yourself unstained or from being corrupted by. When I was growing up, and we had this kind of puritanical view about what is sin and what is not, then there was the catchphrase, the world. You're always supposed to be afraid of the world. Always keep yourself away from the world. But ultimately, what my spiritual path has shown me is that it is in the world where we find a God. It is in the world where the sacred is. The sacred and the profane aren't black and white. There is the sacred in the midst of everything. So I ask you, when you look into the mirror, what do you see? Do you see beauty? Do you see a miracle? Do you see sacred value? Do you see God's beloved? Do you see a persona of the self you show to the world? Or do you see beyond that facade to the inner light? Can you see the infant that came into this world with original blessing? We too often fail to see God's beautiful creation when we look at ourselves. Too often we see our failures, our regrets, our worries, our insecurities. We focus on these things because we want so badly for them to change. We stare at them as if our eyes could shine a laser beam to blast them into oblivion. But instead, we're mesmerized by them and sometimes obsess, cycling into a downward spiral of despair. But I am reminded of the words of a song by Michael Jackson, who would have been 60 this past week, actually. So if you were a fan, then maybe that's relevant for you. But the song is relevant for me. He wrote, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Remember this? I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Amen. It's easy to look at other people and say, how terrible that person is.
That's right.
Or what a mess. We justify talking about other people and saying that we just don't want to be like that. But in doing so, we forget Jesus' words in the 25th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. Whatever you do to the least of these, you do it to me. Those we judge aren't always the poor or other marginalized people we tend to think of as the least of these. But every person we judge has still experienced suffering in some way. Every single person. Often it's this kind of suffering that leads people to have unattractive attitudes or personalities. You've heard it before, and I say it over and over again. Hurting people hurt people. Hurting people hurt people. So can we have compassion for their pain? It's all been too easy over the years since Jesus walked the earth for Christians to scapegoat certain groups of people, to Gospels, we can easily scapegoat the Pharisees. We've been taught that they were these nasty religious leaders who just didn't get what Jesus was talking about. Actually, they were a minority group of lay Jews who worked for reform in the practice of Judaism. They wanted to make a change for their people just as Jesus did. Just like Jesus, the Pharisees knew all too well the harsh oppression of the Roman Empire. The difference is Jesus took his message a step further. Jesus' message of looking within to see what is in the human heart without guilt or without beating ourselves up. And that was a radical thing for his time. Jesus' radical compassion pushed the edge of his own tradition. Dr. Rachel Naomi Raymond tells us this: a great deal of energy goes into the process of fixing and editing ourselves. We may have even come to admire in ourselves what is admired, expect what is expected, and value what is valued by others. We have changed ourselves into someone that the people who matter to us can love. Sometimes we no longer know what is true for us, in which direction our own integrity lies. We surrender our wholeness for a variety of reasons. Among the most compelling are the ideas of what being a good person is all about. Few of us are able to love ourselves as we are. We may have even become ashamed of our wholeness. Parts of ourselves which we may have hidden all of our lives out of shame are often the source of our healing. Reclaiming ourselves usually means coming to recognize and accept that we have in us both sides of everything. We're capable of fear and courage, generosity and selfishness, vulnerability and strength. These things do not cancel each other out, but offer us a full range of power and response to life. Life is as complex as we are. Sometimes our vulnerability is our strength, our fear develops our courage, and our woundedness is the road to our integrity. That is a quote from Dr. Raymond. There's an old African proverb, it's one of my favorites, and I think it's at the center of what the doctor is talking about. It says, the blessing is next to the wound. The blessing is next to the wound. We all have spiritual wounds, whether we want to admit it or not, but that does not mean that we are not whole. Our natural state is wholeness. Nothing in this world can touch the perfect unity of spirit that lies within you. We are not our wounds. That is not our identity. But we still need to recognize that they are there because they hold next to them the blessing, the healing balm that will lead to realizing our wholeness. I was actually reminded also of Michael's sister Janet and her song. In some of the times when I was the most depressed in my life, I would listen to music, and I do that a lot anyway. But I had one of Janet's albums, and this song came up in the midst of a depression years ago, and it's stuck with me ever since. And the words are this: afraid of my reflection, tell me that's not me I see. That's who I want to be. Stuck somewhere in the middle on half full or half empty, waiting for somebody to come and rescue me. Can't let that petty attitude start to jade my point of view. Only thing that does is bring me down. I'm about to change my vibe. Today the sun's gonna shine, because I made up my mind that today will be the start of better days. Those words have always resonated with me. That even if yesterday was crap, today can be a better day. And even if today so good, tomorrow can be. That is the gospel. That is the good news. Amen.